Good morning, welcome to Narrowboat Lane. You join us on our walk on a Sunday morning. Beautiful blue skies, but I do have some sad news to report. All summer we've been feeding a lovely family of swans, and it would appear that Mum has given up the ghost. She's just found it all too much, rested her head and passed on. Such a shame. They've been coming to our boat all year. Bless her. I don't really want to leave her there. I wish I could get her out and bury her. Not because I'm spiritual, because I'm not. I'm about as spiritual as a lump of concrete. But the thought of her being eaten by rats and pike just don't sit well for me. Oh well, circle of life, I guess. Good night, missus. Hey up, back on the boat. Stove, that's what we've been doing, stove. I had every plan in the world of sitting down and planning the vlog about how I was going to film me doing the install. Had it all ready to go, looking great. I thought, yeah, this is going to be a really good one. Got all my tools out yesterday morning, ready to move ahead with the installing the flue, the collar and everything else, cutting the hole in the roof, etc. And then the heavens opened, so I had to get a wriggle on because I'd already drilled holes in the roof. So filming wise, it didn't happen, I'm afraid, but I did pick up some good tips along the way, so I'm going to just talk you through what we got up to yesterday. Right, let me spin you around and I'll show you what we've done. So this is our Mizuna Rocky 6 kilowatt stove. As you can see by all the dust flickering past the camera, it looks like smoke. I can assure you it's not. There's nothing in there burning. But yeah, very dusty, but we're getting there. Right, stove wise, Mizuna Rocky 6 kilowatt. I went to Midland Chandler's and got the flue, which is a 1.5 metre, 4.5 inch flue. And look at that for a nice, neat and tidy job. Right, the reason I had to do that is because I had to get these two coach bolts that are going to sit through the collar. So it was just a simple case of a friend of mine giving me a good tip about how to line up the flue. And that was to get maybe the inners of a roller carpet, you know, like the cardboard tube. I managed to find one at work that we used that was 4.5 inch, exactly the same size as my flue. So what I've done with the cardboard is I cut it, put it in place, and then that showed me exactly where I was going to mark round on the roof, keeping the flue nice and straight, which is what I managed to do in the end. So then it was a case of just drawing a line around the outside of the cardboard tube, take the tube away. Then all I done was puncture a hole or drill a hole through the centre, in the centre of that circle. Then I went to the outside, put the collar on, looked down through the collar so the hole was central, drew around the outside of the collar, drilled a hole, and then got the jigsaw out and jigsawed the hole out. Sorry, my vlogging skill seems to have suffered over the last few weeks of me being a bit quiet. Right, yeah, so the collar was a simple fit then. Just sat it straight down, a bit of gloop underneath, bolted it down, and then glooped again round the outside, making sure that it was lovely and sealed, which it was. Believe it or not, it took me a couple of attempts because the first time I did it, the chimney was, I mean, I know I've got like a domed roof, but the chimney was pointing like right off. I thought, what the bloody hell am I going to do that? Am I going to have to pack it out to level it up and everything. And then my neighbour pointed out to me that the collar is cast angled, so I turned it around the other way, and problem solved. Yeah, so then the chimney just sits on the top of that. So then we give it a good seal. Coming out of the stove, let me just spin you around. Coming out of the stove, that's a 5-inch stove outlet. So I had to put in a reducer, which took it from 5 down to 4.5 ish, because I was told reliably by a few people at Midland Chandlers and on forums that 5-inch flue is not standard. So anyway, the reducer was 13 quid, the flue was 51 quid, the collar was another 38 quid, and the chimney was about 21 quid. So there's certain jobs that you know, you're going to have to spend money. There's no two ways around. Yeah, I'm all for doing things on the cheap, but when it comes to fitting something in your boat that could potentially kill you and sink your home, I wanted to make sure I'd got all the proper kit. So yeah, I did spend some money. Even silly things that I haven't accounted for, jigsaw blades, those conical drill bits that make holes bigger so I can get the coach bolts rather than buying various different sizes of drill bits and going up and up and up. That all cost money. I had to buy a hacksaw, jigsaw blades, two different types of silicone, very high temperature silicone, and then like a Sikaflex one, not Sikaflex, but you know, a variant of that. That will cost money. What else did I have to buy? The stove itself cost me 100 quid. The tiles for the backsplash cost me 18 quid. Then there was the bits of timber, probably about another tenner. The slab was only a couple of quid, but the tile that sat on top of it's 20 quid. The first lot of slabs that I bought thinking that was the best way to go, and then deciding it wasn't, that's another 15 quid. All in all, the rain hat, that was another 13 quid. And then our first bag of coal and timber and fire logs and fire lighters, etc., that was probably about another 20 quid. So it wasn't a cheap job to do, and although, like I say, I'm very keen, as you know, on saving money, not spending it where you don't have to. The fire was something I wasn't going to muck about with. So I think grand total, from start to finish, with everything in, bought, paid for and installed, we're probably getting closer to about the £400 mark, 350 quid, £400 mark. So it is a big expense, but one, if ever we do come to sell the boat, it's going to be easier to sell if it's got a stove on board. Two, it's going to save us a fortune every year in gas, because although we've got the Aldi gas boiler, and the central heating really works really well, it's toasty warm in here in about 20-25 minutes. You do get through a lot of gas, especially on those really frosty cold days where you come home from work and you just want to get warm quickly. Now I know the stove isn't going to provide that because it takes a long time to warm up, but if we keep it on, I'm sure it's keep the fire in. If you keep it in, keep it just bubbling away, just chucking a couple of coals on every now and then just to keep it bubbling away, we should feel the benefit of it pretty much round the clock. So at the moment, last night we lit our first fire. I'm just letting it go out now because I need to empty all the ash out and give it a bit of a clean before we get bubbling again on it. Benefits so far, lovely and toasty. We opened the living room door this morning, and when the dog usually comes like legging it through to jump on the bed for a cuddle and a warm up, he weren't that bothered. He was quite happy where he was. Second benefit, as quickly as the morning after the first fire, I've woke up this morning and for the first time since the summer, no condensation. It's killed. I don't know whether it's to do with the stove keeping it warm. I don't know the exact science behind it. But yeah, no condensation. So everywhere is nice and dry and warm and toasty. There's still things I've got to buy. Well, I don't have to, but I want like a poker. a shovel, some sort of shovel to put the coal in with. I want a nice wire brush so I can get it in there and keep it clean and keep it nice and tidy and efficient. And an ash pan. Now I thought these were going to just be like a couple of quid, little cheap bits and bobs, but you know, from my initial look on eBay and so forth, bloody expensive for what they are. So what I might just go and do is buy a nice metal bucket. My neighbour's got one and it seems to be working a treat for them, so I think I might just go and buy a bucket. Why, you know, why do you want a specific like designed ash pan for? Things are going to get dusty in the boat now that the fire's on anyway, so there's going to be a certain amount of cleaning to be done every day as it is. So having a designated ash pan or emptying it on the bow deck into a bucket makes no difference. So what am I looking at, a tenner for a bucket, and then you know, the bits and bobs. But for our first experience of having a stove fitted on board, I'd say the overall experience is bloody lovely. And I tell you what, last night Mags went to bed, me and Henry were sitting up watching the Formula 1 qualifying on the TV, and I wasn't caning it, I weren't putting loads of fuel in it, it just had a log on there and a couple of coals burning underneath the log. I had the windows open, I had the doors open, and I was sitting here really comfortable, and that nice fresh breeze blowing in through the warmth, if you understand what I'm saying. Oh, it was lovely, it really was nice. And then this morning I got up, I put a couple of coals on before I went to bed, got up this morning, and it wasn't flaming, but the coals were still glowing nice and red and ember, so all I had to do, just chuck a log on the top, closed it, opened the bottom vent, and within 5 minutes had a lovely roaring fire going again, taking the chill off the morning. So yeah, we're loving it, we really are loving it. Check out Ed on Ed's World. He's probably done a lot more in-depth filming of his install, of how he did it, but he makes it very clear, not on how you should do it, but how he did it. Yeah, but it's worth going to see him, because I've done it pretty much exactly the same as Ed, apart from he made a better job on the tiling. Yeah, so do I recommend a stove? If you haven't got one, yes I do. Make sure that you budget for it, because you're not going to do it cheap. You might be looking to find a cheap stove that needs renovating, but by the time that you've spent money renovating it, you'd probably better off buying a more expensive ready to go one. For Midland Chandlers, people call them Midland Swindlers, don't they, because they're so expensive. I recommend going there only because if you're anything like me, I mean, if you've got your head switched on and you know what you're doing, you'll probably find all the parts that I had to buy for quite a lot cheaper. But for me, it wasn't so much saving money this time, it was more a case of I wanted to go to one place, get everything I need, and come home and do the job, which is what I managed to do because of, you know, Midland Chandlers, a company that large, they stock everything you want. I did have a look on eBay for various bits and bobs and on the internet, but we're having a nightmare getting the post delivered properly at the moment, so I didn't want to go down that route of stuff being sent back to sender and then having to be resent back out to me and all that. Anyway, cut a long story short, I went to Midland Chandlers. Everything that I got there was the fire putty, both tubes of silicone, a couple of really big thick bits of fire rope for the ceiling. What else did I buy from them? The reducer, the flue, the collar, the chimney, the rain hat, the fire cement, the silicone. What else did I get from them? Oh, the coach bolts for the collar, and it comes to about 158 quid. So, you know, I can't really knock them. They did give me a bit of money off as well. That's not why I'm recommending them, but you know, okay, yeah, they've got overheads, but I think if you want to just go to one place, get everything you need, come home, all the messing about's gone. It might be costing you a few more quid on top, but for me that was worth it. So yeah. Right, coming up then in the future, we have got. I was going to decorate the bedroom. I've decided to hold back on that because the next thing that's properly doing my head in is the bathroom. And I've decided the best way of doing a proper good job is to rip the existing bathroom out entirely, right back to the bare walls. So that's what I'm going to do. So there's no point decorating the bedroom. because everything for the bathroom job's going to have to come through the bedroom in and out. So the bedroom's going to be the last thing to do. Yeah, so project bathroom, I don't know when that's going to start. I might just, really what I want to do is be in a position where I've got all the bits and bobs ready to go, and then maybe take a week or so off work and just batter it, because I don't want to be living in mess and dust over an extended period of time. Right then, I'm going to leave you to it. Thanks to all my subscribers and our new members as well. Really lovely to see you jumping on board. Like I say, sorry I didn't film the fire install. I really wanted to do an in-depth one. What I might do is I might go back and do a recap, and actually show you what I'm doing, as well as drawings and so forth, so that I can explain it properly how I went about doing it. Because it's silly things. You cut a round hole in the roof thinking that'll fit the collar, but really you need like an oval, slightly oval hole in the roof so that the collar sits properly on. Things like that I wasn't aware of. So I will do a more in-depth stove install vlog, basically focusing on how I did it and the little hazards that I tripped up against along the way. But for now, I'll leave you to it. Thanks very much. Comment, like and subscribe. I always read your comments and always do my best to reply to you. Great to see you. See you again soon.